Lieutenant Maya Chen felt her skin crawl as the Accioni delegation glided through orbital station Freedom. Despite the fanfare and diplomatic pleasantries, something felt wrong. 7 distinct species moved in perfect unison, their environmental suits gleaming under the station's bright lights. Maya, assigned as security liaison, watched their faceted eyes catalog everything they passed. The atmospheric composition can be adjusted to your physiology in the conference room, Director Harrington explained, leading the procession. The lead Accioni, a tall, mantis-like being named High Emissary Zex Kalter, inclined its elongated head in acknowledgement. Your accommodation is appreciated but unnecessary. Our suits provide optimal function. Its voice came through a translator module, oddly musical yet emotionless. Maya noticed one of the smaller Accioni discreetly scanning the station's defense node as they passed. She tapped her neural implant, flagging the behavior for later review. Inside the conference chamber, Earth's representatives gathered. Delegates from the United Nations Space Command, the Mars Colonial Authority, and the Belt Mining Consortium. Humanity's first interstellar diplomatic summit was being broadcast to billions below. The meeting progressed cordially until the Accioni presented their solar system resource allocation proposal. Behind diplomatic language lay a simple demand. Earth would cede control of Mars and the asteroid belt in exchange for protective status within the Accioni collective. We've analyzed your civilization's development trajectory, Zex Kalter explained, projecting charts showing humanity's technological growth curve. Your species requires guidance to avoid the self-extinction event that befalls 78.3% of emergent spacefaring races. Admiral Wilson leaned forward. With respect, Emissary, humanity has survived multiple extinction-level threats. We've adapted and thrived. We appreciate your offer but decline the proposed territorial concessions. Maya watched the Accioni delegation's reaction closely. Their movements, previously fluid, became unnaturally still. Zex Kalter's breathing apparatus cycled rapidly, the equivalent of agitation. Your assessment is predictably flawed, the emissary replied. Then something happened. The translator module fluctuated, and for 3 seconds they heard the Accioni's actual voice, a harsh, clicking sound dripping with contempt. The module recalibrated quickly, but Maya had already activated her personal recorder, capturing the glitch. The meeting continued with increasing tension until Earth's delegation unanimously rejected the proposal. Zex Kalter rose to its full height. Then you have chosen battle. A regrettable but predictable decision from such an undeveloped species. Before anyone could respond, Maya noticed something horrifying. The Accioni delegation's ceremonial staffs were transforming, components shifting like liquid metal. Weapons, she shouted, drawing her sidearm as the conference room exploded into chaos. Maya tackled Director Harrington as energy pulses vaporized 3 delegates. Dragging him toward the emergency pods, she witnessed the station's defensive systems activating too late, compromised somehow during the Accioni tour. They never intended peace, Harrington gasped, blood streaming from a wound on his temple. This was reconnaissance. Get in, Maya ordered, shoving him into the last escape pod. Someone needs to warn Earth. Lieutenant, the recording in my implant. It's proof they planned this all along. She slammed the pod door and initiated launch sequence. As Harrington's pod ejected, Maya sprinted toward the backup communications array, determined to transmit what she'd discovered. From the viewport, she saw the diplomatic vessel transforming, weapon ports opening across its hull. The Accioni ship fired, and Freedom Station shuddered. Maya reached the auxiliary control room just as the main power failed. Working frantically by emergency light, she compressed her recording and transmitted it toward Earth on all frequencies. The transmission confirmed sent seconds before the station's atmosphere vented into space. Maya sealed herself in a maintenance compartment, oxygen dwindling as she watched Earth below. Within hours, bright flashes marked orbital defense platforms being systematically destroyed. The Accioni had mapped every strategic location during their peaceful first contact. As consciousness faded, Lieutenant Maya Chen realized humanity's greatest mistake. They'd welcomed the Accioni with open arms, never suspecting that the advanced collective had already calculated the cost of humanity's destruction and found it acceptable. What the Accioni hadn't calculated, however, was the cost of humanity's survival. Admiral Helena Chu stood unnaturally still on the bridge of the EFS Thermopylae, the last remaining capital ship of Earth's Space Force. Tactical displays flickered with the chaos of humanity's defeat, red dots blinking out as Accioni vessels systematically eliminated Earth's defenses. "Luna Station is gone, Admiral," reported Commander Jackson, his voice barely steady. "Mars' defense grid has fallen silent. Incoming transmissions report atmospheric strikes on 6 major cities." Helena closed her eyes briefly. She'd risen through the ranks during an era of peace, never expecting to give the order now sitting heavy on her tongue. "Verify authorization. Chu, Helena Amara. Admiral. Security code Gamma 72 Epsilon." The ship's AI responded immediately. Admiral Chu verified. "Please state command override." "Execute Broken Arrow." The bridge fell silent. Broken Arrow, the contingency protocol developed after the discovery of 2151, when deep space probes found evidence of past civilizations obliterated by unknown forces. The protocol that many had called paranoid. Broken Arrow acknowledged, intoned the AI, initiating fleet-wide dispersal and communications blackout. Across the solar system, the scattered remains of Earth's fleet received the encoded command. Ships vanished from tracking systems, not destroyed but gone dark. Activating stealth systems, shutting down non-essential functions, and scattering according to prearranged patterns. To the Accioni, it would appear as a rout, the final collapse of organized resistance. "They'll declare victory within hours," Helena said, watching the last transmissions from Earth show Accioni ships entering orbit unopposed. "Let them believe it." The Thermopylae's engines powered down to minimal output as the ship drifted into the shadow of a captured asteroid, rendered nearly invisible to sensors. Helena dismissed the bridge crew, ordering rest rotations. They would need every scrap of strength in the days ahead. Alone in her quarters, she allowed herself 5 minutes of grief. For Earth, for billions of civilians, for the future that had been stolen. Then she washed her face and returned to the war. 3 days after the fall of Earth, Tactical Officer Michael Singh floated in the damaged engine room of the destroyer Shiger, hidden deep within Saturn's rings. The ice and dust provided natural camouflage, but every hour brought Accioni patrols hunting for survivors. Singh hadn't slept since the attack. His hands trembled as he reconnected power couplings in the shield generator. The Shiger had taken heavy damage escaping Earth's orbit, and with central power at 18%, the shields were their only hope if discovered. "Singh, status report." Captain Tanaka's voice crackled through his comm. "Almost there, Captain. The Accioni energy signature is complex, but I've isolated the primary frequency. Work faster. Long-range scanners show a patrol approaching." Singh swore under his breath, fatigue making his movements clumsy. The shield diagnostics failed for the 3rd time. In frustration, he slammed his fist against the panel, accidentally engaging the experimental frequency modulator, a system designed to test shield resonance patterns. The display cycled rapidly through frequencies, the shield briefly activating with each shift. A warning blared. An Accioni sensor probe had drifted within detection range. Singh froze, waiting for the inevitable alarm as the probe scanned them. Nothing happened. He stared at the readouts, uncomprehending. The probe had swept directly over their position, but registered nothing. Only when he examined the shield logs did understanding dawn. "Captain." Singh's voice cracked with excitement. "The rapid frequency shifts. The Accioni scanners can't lock onto us when our shields cycle through patterns instead of maintaining a stable frequency." "Explain," Tanaka demanded. Singh's fingers flew across the controls, testing his theory. Their targeting systems are designed to detect and penetrate consistent energy signatures. They've never needed adaptive systems because their enemies always used predictable shield configurations. In the bridge's red emergency lighting, Captain Tanaka's exhausted face showed the first hint of hope in days. They've conquered species who fought according to logical patterns, she realized. They've never fought an enemy who kept changing tactics. Sane nodded, the implications becoming clear. They've never fought humans. Within hours, the discovery spread through encrypted quantum bursts to other hidden vessels. Admiral Chu's response was immediate. Implement Sing Protocol fleet-wide. Begin Phase 1 reconnaissance. Identify all Axioni weaknesses. We are not defeated. We are hunting. In the darkness between worlds, humanity's scattered ships began to move, invisible in their shifting electromagnetic signatures, gathering intelligence for a counterattack no formula-driven alien intelligence could anticipate. Axioni Commander Vextral's chitin plates clicked in agitation as he surveyed the wreckage of Outpost Sigma-7. This marked the 7th destroyed supply depot in the Jupiter sector this month alone. The blast pattern indicated primitive fusion explosives, yet the precision of the attack suggested advanced tactical knowledge. Scan the debris for biological traces, he ordered through his breathing apparatus. The specialized mixture of methane and nitrogen sustained his physiology, but did nothing to calm his mounting frustration. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Turzek, hovered nearby. There are no traces, Commander. As with previous attacks, the perpetrators left no evidence of their presence. Impossible. Vextral's inner eyelids flicked rapidly, a sign of cognitive dissonance among the wrecks. Their military infrastructure was decimated in the initial assault. Our models projected complete capitulation within 14 orbital cycles. The humans are not following established surrender protocols, Turzek observed. Vextral's mandibles clenched. They are vermin acting on primitive survival instincts. Increase patrols by 20% and implement predictive targeting algorithms. 300,000 kilometers away, Commander Darius Wade crawled through the maintenance tunnels beneath Europa's crust, leading 11 others through the -40-degree darkness. Their makeshift team included 3 former mining engineers, a molecular biologist, 5 civilian volunteers, and 2 actual soldiers besides himself. Structural analysis confirms we're directly beneath Section C of the Axioni Research Facility, whispered Dr. Layla Kapoor, her breath visible in the frigid air. Before the invasion, she'd been developing ice-resistant building materials for Europa's first permanent settlement. Now she used that knowledge to burrow beneath an alien stronghold. Wade nodded, checking the crude 3-dimensional map projected from his salvage tablet. Athos team, prepare the sonic disruptors. Zeus team, stand by with the emergency extraction protocol. He didn't mention that the emergency extraction protocol consisted of 2 commandeered maintenance shuttles with barely enough fuel for a one-way trip. Every mission was a potential suicide run, but nobody needed that reminder. Wade touched the faded photo tucked inside his thermal suit, his sister smiling outside her London apartment, erased along with 20 million others when the Axioni targeted Earth's major population centers. Dr. Kapoor had lost her entire family in Mumbai. Everyone on the team carried similar ghosts. Breaching in 3, 2, 1. The specialized drill, repurposed from mining equipment, pierced the final meter of ice and metal composite. They emerged into the lower levels of the facility with practiced silence, moving through an environment designed for beings with different physiological needs. The Axioni's overconfidence worked in their favor. Interior security was minimal. The aliens couldn't conceive of humans mounting an offensive operation after such comprehensive defeat. 30 minutes until security rotation, Wade reminded them as they split into predetermined groups. His team headed for the central research hub, while others targeted the communications array and power distribution systems. The intelligence files they'd come for were protected by Axioni encryption, but Kapoor had anticipated this. She attached a specialized device to the alien interface, letting it cycle through algorithms designed to exploit patterns in Axioni programming language. "We're in," she whispered after tense minutes, downloading research data and, "Wait." Her eyes widened. "These aren't just weapon schematics. These are observation files on Earth. They've been studying us for decades." Wade leaned closer, skimming the translated data. The files contained meticulous analyses of human military capabilities, technological development trajectories, and resource allocation patterns. But the tactical assessments were riddled with dismissive annotations. Primitive combat doctrines, inefficient warfare methodologies, emotional decision matrices incompatible with optimal battlefield solutions. They studied our weapons but ignored our history, Wade realized, downloading everything they could access. They counted our ships and bombs, but dismissed 5,000 years of warfare experience as evolutionary holdovers. The facility's alarms suddenly blared. Their presence discovered. Zia's team, initiate distraction protocol. Athos' team, fall back to extraction point. As his team raced toward their exit route, an Axioni patrol intercepted them. Wade activated the stolen phase shifter technology, rendering himself visible while the others remained cloaked. "Go," he shouted as his team escaped with the precious data. The Axioni surrounded him, weapons trained on his position. An officer stepped forward, mandibles clicking in what Wade recognized as confusion. "Your actions defy logical self-preservation parameters. Explain your strategic objective." Wade laughed, blood trickling from a wound on his forehead. "You calculated our technological capabilities perfectly," he said, revealing the plasma grenade in his hand. "What you failed to calculate was our willingness to sacrifice everything to make you bleed." The explosion collapsed the facility's primary coolant system, destroying months of Axioni research. The data Wade's team extracted would provide humanity with its first comprehensive look at Axioni biology, psychology, and technological weaknesses, information that would prove invaluable in the Resistance's next phase. Axioni Commander Vextrol's chitin plates clicked in agitation as he surveyed the wreckage of Outpost Sigma 7. This marked the 7th destroyed supply depot in the Jupiter sector this month alone. The blast pattern indicated primitive fusion explosives, yet the precision of the attack suggested advanced tactical knowledge. "Scan the debris for biological traces," he ordered through his breathing apparatus. The specialized mixture of methane and nitrogen sustained his physiology, but did nothing to calm his mounting frustration. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Turzek, hovered nearby. "There are no traces, Commander." As with previous attacks, the perpetrators left no evidence of their presence. "Impossible." Vextrol's inner eyelids flicked rapidly, a sign of cognitive dissonance among the Vrex. Their military infrastructure was decimated in the initial assault. Our models projected complete capitulation within 14 orbital cycles. "The humans are not following established surrender protocols," Turzek observed. Vextrol's mandibles clenched. "They are vermin acting on primitive survival instincts. Increase patrols by 20% and implement predictive targeting algorithms." 300,000 kilometers away, Commander Darius Wade crawled through the maintenance tunnels beneath Europa's crust, leading 11 others through the -40-degree darkness. Their makeshift team included 3 former mining engineers, a molecular biologist, 5 civilian volunteers, and 2 actual soldiers besides himself. Structural analysis confirms we're directly beneath Section C of the Axioni Research Facility, whispered Dr. Layla Kapoor, her breath visible in the frigid air. Before the invasion, she'd been developing ice-resistant building materials for Europa's first permanent settlement. Now she used that knowledge to burrow beneath an alien stronghold. Wade nodded, checking the crude 3-dimensional map projected from his salvage tablet. Athos' team, prepare the sonic disruptors. Zia's team, stand by with the emergency extraction protocol. He didn't mention that the emergency extraction protocol consisted of 2 commandeered maintenance shuttles with barely enough fuel for a one-way trip. Every mission was a potential suicide run. But nobody needed that reminder. Wade touched the faded photo tucked inside his thermal suit. His sister smiling outside her London apartment, erased along with 20 million others when the Accioni targeted Earth's major population centers. Dr. Kapoor had lost her entire family in Mumbai. Everyone on the team carried similar ghosts. Breaching in 3, 2, 1. The specialized drill, repurposed from mining equipment, pierced the final meter of ice and metal composite. They emerged into the lower levels of the facility with practiced silence, moving through an environment designed for beings with different physiological needs. The Accioni's overconfidence worked in their favor. Interior security was minimal. The aliens couldn't conceive of humans mounting an offensive operation after such comprehensive defeat. 30 minutes until security rotation. Wade reminded them as they split into predetermined groups. His team headed for the central research hub, while others targeted the communications array and power distribution systems. The intelligence files they'd come for were protected by Accioni encryption, but Kapoor had anticipated this. She attached a specialized device to the alien interface, letting it cycle through algorithms designed to exploit patterns in Accioni programming language. "We're in," she whispered after tense minutes. "Downloading research data, and wait." Her eyes widened. "These aren't just weapon schematics. These are observation files on Earth. They've been studying us for decades." Wade leaned closer, skimming the translated data. The files contained meticulous analyses of human military capabilities, technological development trajectories, and resource allocation patterns. But the tactical assessments were riddled with dismissive annotations. Primitive combat doctrines, inefficient warfare methodologies, emotional decision matrices incompatible with optimal battlefield solutions. They study our weapons but ignored our history, Wade realized, downloading everything they could access. They counted our ships and bombs, but dismissed 5,000 years of warfare experience as evolutionary holdovers. The facility's alarms suddenly blared. Their presence discovered. Zia's team, initiate distraction protocol. Athos team, fall back to extraction point. As his team raced toward their exit route, an Accioni patrol intercepted them. Wade activated the stolen phase shifter technology, rendering himself visible while the others remained cloaked. "Go," he shouted as his team escaped with the precious data. The Accioni surrounded him, weapons trained on his position. An officer stepped forward, mandibles clicking in what Wade recognized as confusion. "Your actions defy logical self-preservation parameters. Explain your strategic objective." Wade laughed, blood trickling from a wound on his forehead. "You calculated our technological capabilities perfectly," he said, revealing the plasma grenade in his hand. "What you failed to calculate was our willingness to sacrifice everything to make you bleed." The explosion collapsed the facility's primary coolant system, destroying months of Accioni research. The data Wade's team extracted would provide humanity with its first comprehensive look at Accioni biology, psychology, and technological weaknesses, information that would prove invaluable in the Resistance's next phase. In Neptune's shadow, humanity's scattered fleet performed the most dangerous maneuver since the invasion began: a coordinated rendezvous. Space, normally the ally of those wishing to remain hidden, became treacherous as 67 vessels converged on precise coordinates, each maintaining communications blackout until the last possible moment. Admiral Chu watched from the bridge of the Lazarus, a salvage carrier bearing scorch marks from 3 separate engagements. The ship had been destroyed according to Accioni records, its transponder ID stripped from a burning hulk left drifting near Mars. Now it served as the flagship for humanity's improbable counteroffensive. "Basilisk arriving, Admiral," announced Lieutenant Commander Park, as a heavily modified civilian mining vessel shimmered into visibility, its hull patched with mismatched plating. "That's the last one. 67 ships total. 7 more than expected." Chu allowed herself a brief smile. "The hard-to-kill ones, always good in a fight." The view screen displayed the assembled fleet, an impossible collection of survivors. Military vessels flew alongside converted civilian ships, science vessels, even a pair of luxury yachts whose wealthy owners had donated them to the resistance after escaping Earth. Many showed signs of battle damage and emergency repairs. None looked like they belonged together, yet each represented a miracle of human survival. "All captains are standing by for briefing," Park reported. Chu nodded. "Signal the Prometheus protocol is active. Set course for Ceres Station." Deep within the asteroid belt, Dr. Sophia Wu waited in a massive hangar carved from Ceres' rocky interior. The former head of quantum engineering at MIT now led the most critical technological initiative of the Resistance, Operation Prometheus. "They're here," her assistant announced as the fleet began docking procedures at the hidden facility. Wu watched through reinforced windows as personnel disembarked, and cargo was offloaded. Critical components salvaged from destroyed Axioni vessels, technology captured in raids like Wade's Europa operation, and intelligence gathered by operatives like Ansari. Admiral Chu strode into the laboratory an hour later, her uniform worn but impeccable. The two women embraced briefly, friends from before the world ended, now architects of its potential rebirth. "Show me," Chu said simply. Wu led her through security barriers to the facility's heart. Inside the cavernous chamber, captured Axioni technology had been dissected, analyzed, and transformed. Human ships waited in various stages of modification. Axioni power cores grafted to human engines, alien shield generators modified to specifications their designers never imagined. The Axioni approach technology like they approach everything, with elegant efficiency and utter predictability. Wu explained, activating a demonstration of a hybrid shield system. The energy field pulsed with shifting patterns unlike anything in Axioni engineering. They've never needed to innovate under pressure. Their equipment is designed to fight wars they've already calculated they'll win. She moved to another station where engineers worked on communication systems. "This is perhaps our greatest breakthrough, the chameleon shields." The display showed human vessels projecting Axioni identification signatures. "We can appear as Axioni ships to their sensors, allowing us to penetrate their defense networks." A young engineer nearby raised a hesitant hand. "Dr. Wu, Admiral, will this really be enough? They still outnumber us significantly." Chu answered before Wu could speak. "We're not trying to match them ship for ship. We're fighting an asymmetric war." She activated the main tactical display, revealing a detailed schematic of Axioni fleet formations with newly identified vulnerabilities highlighted. "They taught us their technology out of arrogance. Now we'll teach them how humans use new toys." The briefing continued with discussions of modified weapons systems and tactical approaches that violated Axioni battle doctrine at every turn. As captains received their assignments, a communications officer burst into the room. "Admiral, urgent transmission from the Jupiter prison station, routed through 3 dead drops. It's Dr. Ansari. He's completed the security system mapping." The message appeared on the central display, its contents sending a wave of murmurs through the assembled officers. Ansari have discovered more than they'd hoped for. Detailed schematics of the Axioni homeworld defense systems, information that would prove crucial if humanity survived long enough to take the fight beyond their solar system. "Begin final preparations," Chu ordered. "Operation Titan commences in 72 hours. As the briefing concluded, Wu pulled Chu aside. "Helena, I've been thinking about the mythology behind our operation's name." "Prometheus," Chu nodded. "The Titan who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity." "Yes, but remember what happened to him afterward. The gods punished him eternally for his defiance." Chu's eyes hardened. "The difference is, we're not stealing fire from gods, Sophia. We're taking it from invaders who mistook technological superiority for divinity. And unlike Prometheus, we won't be chained to a rock when this is over. They will." General Marcus Rivera stood before the holographic tactical display aboard the command vessel Agincourt, studying the rotating model of Saturn's moon Titan. 16 months ago, he had been Professor Rivera, teaching military history at West Point. Now, he was about to apply that knowledge in humanity's first major offensive operation against the Axioni. Titan represents both strategic and symbolic value, he explained to the assembled strike team commanders. The Axioni have converted it into their primary fuel processing center for the entire solar system. More importantly, they consider it unassailable. He manipulated the display, highlighting the extensive defense grid surrounding the moon. 3 orbital defense rings, automated response platforms, and a garrison of 17 capital ships. By conventional metrics, this target is impregnable. Captain Yasmin Okoy of the modified destroyer Spartacus leaned forward. With respect, General, if it's impregnable, why are we attacking it? Rivera smiled thinly. Because human history is filled with impregnable positions that fell when defenders couldn't imagine how they might be defeated. He expanded the display to show the planned approach vectors. The Axioni expect any attack to follow rational resource optimal patterns. We won't. The briefing room fell silent as Rivera outlined Operation Longbow, a battle plan that would have been recognizable to military commanders from across human history, adapted to 3-dimensional space warfare with technology the Axioni had never imagined humans could wield. Hours later, the human fleet emerged from light speed at precisely calculated points around the Saturn system. From Axioni observation posts, the ships appeared scattered and damaged, their formations chaotic, and their approach vectors seemingly random. Aboard the Axioni command vessel Inevitable Victory, Supreme Tactician Zex Verex observed the human fleet with compound eyes that had overseen the conquest of 3 previous civilizations. Desperate final gambit, he assessed, mandibles clicking in what passed for amusement among his kind. Deploy defense forces according to optimal response pattern Delta 6. His subordinates transmitted the commands, and the Axioni defense fleet moved to engage, following mathematically perfect pursuit vectors calculated by their battle computers. The choreography of their movements reflected thousands of years of evolutionary and technological development, each ship maintaining precise formation integrity while moving to envelop the scattered human vessels. What they failed to notice were 3 unremarkable supply ships that had emerged from light speed separately from the main fleet. These vessels, equipped with the Chimelian shields developed by Dr. Wu's team, broadcasted Axioni identification codes as they drifted past the outer defense perimeter, their trajectories calculated to appear as routine supply movements. On the bridge of the Agincourt, Rivera watched the battle unfold exactly as predicted. The Axioni fighting doctrine emphasizes mathematical precision above all else, he commented to his tactical officer. Their ships will maintain formation integrity even at the cost of tactical advantage. As if to prove his point, the Axioni vessels refused to break their geometric patterns, even as human ships performed seemingly suicidal maneuvers designed to disrupt them. Several human vessels appeared to take critical damage, drifting powerless between the Axioni formation lines. Execute Phase 2, Rivera ordered as the battle reached its predetermined tipping point. The 3 disguised human vessels reached Titan's atmospheric processors and deployed their payloads, not conventional explosives, but modified versions of Dr. Cortez's shadow bombs. The specialized devices plunged the entire facility into communications darkness, triggering emergency protocols that caused all Axioni ships to converge on predetermined rally points. Now, Rivera commanded. The apparently damaged human vessels suddenly powered up, revealing fully operational weapon systems. Simultaneously, the main human fleet executed a complex 3-dimensional version of the double envelopment strategy Hannibal had used against the Romans at Cannae over 3,000 years earlier. Caught between multiple attack vectors and unable to maintain their sacred formation integrity, the Axioni fleet fragmented. Their response, programmed for optimal mathematical solutions, failed completely against tactics drawn from humanity's bloodiest lessons. Inside the Titan Facility Control Center, the Axioni commander watched in disbelief as his forces were systematically dismantled by an enemy they had calculated could not possibly threaten them. As the facility's critical systems failed and human boarding parties breached the main complex, he transmitted a final message to the Accioni homeworld. They do not fight like a civilization. They fight like cornered animals with mathematics. Beware their history. They have practiced defeat and victory for millennia. As Titan fell, the first major human victory reverberated across the solar system, reaching the ears of those who had never stopped resisting. On occupied Earth, the news would spread like wildfire, igniting hope where the Accioni had thought none remained. In the abandoned subway tunnels beneath Shanghai, 16-year-old Ling Chen huddled with 23 other refugees, mostly children and teenagers orphaned during the initial bombardment. The tunnel walls around them were covered with charcoal drawings, meticulously detailed maps of Accioni patrol routes, guard rotations, and supply depots. "I was supposed to be taking my computer science finals this week," Ling told a newcomer, a 12-year-old boy whose face bore burn scars from the Beijing firebombing. His name was Wei, and he hadn't spoken since Ling's group found him hiding in the ruins of a shopping center. Instead, on learning practical chemistry, she demonstrated by carefully measuring household chemicals scavenged from abandoned buildings. Under her guidance, the mixture would become a compound capable of burning through Accioni environmental suits. Knowledge gleaned from resistance data packets periodically broadcast on emergency frequencies. "This will be ready for tomorrow's operation," she explained, sealing the mixture in salvage containers. Wei watched with solemn eyes but remained silent. The news of the Titan victory had reached Earth 2 weeks earlier, triggering a surge in resistance activities. What had been isolated acts of sabotage were evolving into coordinated operations as civilian resistance cells established contact with military remnants. "Listen up," called Wang, a former subway engineer who led their cell. "New intelligence from the underground network. The Accioni are rotating forces from the northern sector to reinforce their communications hub in Pudong. That leaves a 20-minute window in their patrol coverage tomorrow." The group gathered around a makeshift projector displaying the target, an Accioni command relay that coordinated enforcement operations across 3 provinces. Taking it offline would create critical disruptions in the occupier's security grid. "Ling's team will place the charges here, and here," Wang continued, highlighting access points. "Jin's team will create a distraction in the commercial district. Wei, you'll be our spotter." The boy nodded, accepting his first assignment. Though he couldn't or wouldn't speak, his keen eyes had already proven valuable during reconnaissance. Above ground, Accioni Enforcement Commander Nexpal submitted his daily security assessment to the occupation governor. The data showed alarming trends. Resistance activities had increased 278% following the Titan defeat. Despite deploying predictive security algorithms and implementing harsher penalties for non-compliance, the humans continued to defy containment models. Previous subjugated species exhibited diminishing resistance following decisive military defeat. He noted in his report, "Human response patterns show inverse correlation. Resistance increases proportionally to occupation severity." Most frustrating was the civilians' seemingly innate capacity for guerrilla warfare. The Accioni had neutralized Earth's formal military structure, yet found themselves fighting an enemy that disappeared into crowded cities only to emerge elsewhere. Their security algorithms had calculated that resistance would collapse after destroying major military targets, yet it intensified daily. Recommendation: implement Protocol Oxygen in high-resistance zones, Nexval concluded, proposing the obliteration of entire city sectors to eliminate resistance strongholds. The next morning, Ling's team moved through the ruined city with practiced stealth. Years of urban exploration before the invasion had taught her every service tunnel and maintenance access in the district. Now those childhood adventures served a deadly purpose. We led from the front, using hand signals to direct their movement through blind spots in Accioni surveillance. At the target's perimeter, they paused as an enforcement patrol passed, the aliens' environmental suits hissing softly in the morning air. "Remember the timing," Ling whispered once the patrol moved on. Plant the charges, set the timers for 7 minutes, then move to Extraction Point Bravo. No heroes today. The infiltration proceeded according to plan until Y suddenly raised his fist. The danger signal. An unexpected Accioni security drone rounded the corner ahead. Before anyone could react, Wei dashed into the open, deliberately drawing its attention. The drone's sensors locked onto him as he ran in the opposite direction from the team. Ling hesitated only briefly before signaling the others to continue the mission. Wei's sacrifice, planned or improvise, had given them the opening they needed. They reached the communication hub's junction box and planted Ling's chemical compounds at the structural weak points identified by resistance engineers. As she activated the final timer, Ling placed something else alongside it, a small plastic toy wolf her father had given her before the invasion. The team reached Extraction Point Bravo, just as the first explosion rocked the district. The communication hub's systems cascaded into failure, its reinforced structure compromised by compounds specifically designed to exploit weaknesses in Accioni materials. What happened next wasn't part of the plan. The hub's security cameras captured Ling's face in the final moments before detonation. Her expression not one of fear or hatred, but a calm smile directed at the Accioni operators who would review the footage. Within days, that image spread throughout occupied territories. A teenage girl smiling calmly at her enemies moments before destroying their operation. She became known simply as the Smile, her image appearing on makeshift posters and graffiti across occupied territories. A symbol of defiance that the Accioni could neither comprehend nor eradicate. 2 years into a war they had calculated would last 2 weeks, the Accioni Supreme Council convened an emergency session. The Grand Chamber, designed to demonstrate the collective's power through its sheer scale and technological opulence, now felt oppressively silent as reports from the Sol system flowed across secure channels. The Titan defeat was not an isolated tactical failure, admitted Supreme Strategist Vorkilax, his exoskeleton displaying stress fractures from prolonged emergency deployment. Human forces have since destroyed 37 critical facilities across their system. Supply lines to our occupation forces have been compromised beyond sustainable levels. Grand Hierarch Zexmelov, leader of the Accioni Collective for 6 standard cycles, studied the statistical projections with growing disbelief. These outcomes defy our predictive models. How does a technologically inferior species with no unified military structure continue to inflict such damages? The most disturbing intelligence arrived last. Long-range sensors had detected human ships operating near the warp routes to the Accioni homeworld, using modified Accioni technology in ways their engineers had deemed impossible. The species they had dismissed as primitive now threatened their core systems. Initiate diplomatic protocols, the Grand Hierarch finally ordered. Prepare terms for cessation of hostilities. On the dwarf planet Ceres, converted to neutral diplomatic ground through hasty arrangements, a historic meeting convened. Earth's negotiator, Ambassador Rebecca Okafor, entered the chamber with a noticeable limp, a permanent reminder of the day Accioni forces bombed the United Nations headquarters in Geneva. She had been an international trade lawyer before the invasion. Now she represented what remained of human governance, a coalition of military leaders, civilian authorities, and resistance representatives united by existential necessity. Opposite her sat the Accioni Supreme Commander, flanked by representatives from all 7 species of their collective. Their postures betrayed discomfort at breathing the same atmosphere as humans, despite atmospheric scrubbers working at maximum capacity. The chamber's walls displayed real-time feeds from across the solar system. Human ships now controlling key strategic positions, Earth still bearing the scars of orbital bombardment, but visibly reorganizing, and the wreckage of Accioni vessels arranged in precise orbits around Jupiter as silent warnings. Your species defies all rational models, the Supreme Commander stated after preliminary formalities concluded. Our simulations predicted your surrender within 14 standard cycles. You had no mathematical path to victory. Okafor smiled thinly. Mathematics is a human invention. We decide when to follow its rules. She activated a holographic display showing the progression of human conflict through history, cave paintings depicting tribal warfare, ancient battles, modern conflicts, culminating in images from the current resistance. You chose battle without understanding your enemy. Humanity has been teaching itself the cost of war since we first picked up stones against each other. We didn't want this fight, but we've had plenty of practice finishing them. She slid a data crystal across the table containing intelligence about 3 other species the Accioni had incorporated through similar invasion tactics. Your expansion ends here. These terms are non-negotiable. The Supreme Commander's compound eyes narrowed at the implications. You presume to dictate terms. Even with your recent victories, your species remains technologically inferior. We could escalate to planetary sterilization protocols. You could, Okafor acknowledged calmly. But before making that decision, I suggest your leadership reviews the data packet transmitted to your homeworld 30 minutes ago. The alien delegation erupted into agitated movements as emergency communications confirmed her claim. Human operatives had somehow penetrated the Accioni central data network, delivering precise coordinates of critical infrastructure throughout Accioni space, along with specifications for weapons designed specifically to target those vulnerabilities. This is merely a demonstration, Okafor continued. If planetary sterilization is initiated against Earth, similar protocols will automatically activate against the Accioni homeworld. Mutual destruction is assured. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. The Accioni had initiated a conventional war, expecting a conventional surrender when their superior technology prevailed. Instead, they had awakened something they couldn't quantify: the accumulated survival instincts of a species that had spent its entire evolutionary history competing, adapting, and overcoming. The peace treaty that emerged after 3 tense days of negotiation shocked the Galactic community, not only securing humanity's independence, but establishing Earth as protector of the 3 previously subjugated species discovered in Accioni records. The document's preamble, drafted in Admiral Chu's hand, became famous across known space. Let this serve as education to those who would choose battle without understanding the cost. Humanity stands ready to teach this lesson again if necessary. As Accioni forces withdrew from the solar system in the following months, humanity began the long process of rebuilding. The species had been bloodied but not broken, and emerged with technologies and knowledge that accelerated their development by centuries. In the decades that followed, Earth ships venturing into the wider galaxy found an unexpected welcome among species who whispered of the civilization that fought the undefeated Accioni to a standstill. Diplomatic credentials bearing Earth's symbol opened doors previously closed, and in distant council chambers, the question was often asked of aggressive powers: "Are you certain you wish to provoke the humans? They have such creative ways of teaching the cost of war."